what do you think is the number one skill or asset that everyone should have that will always further them in life? If you could say there's one asset and skill that you need to have in your life or business, relationships, whatever it may be.
Being a good writer, good communicator in the written word. Yep. And I don't think it's hard to improve that. I think that a regular practice of writing, it could be journaling in the morning for 5 to 10 minutes with something like morning pages. People can Google that. You can actually Google what my journal looks like. So what my journal looks like literally, and then my name and some examples will pop up. But having a regular writing practice, and it could be just an assignment that you give yourself once a week, and you're going to write 3 to 5 pages, and then you're going to pay someone to edit it or to review it. And that could be a teacher at a local college who does, say, creative writing classes, or it could be a friend who's a lawyer or a lawyer. Lawyers are very good at, not all of them, but they're very good at spotting sloppy language or sloppy thinking, words that are unnecessary, words that are easily confused. And just that practice of tightening up your writing will tighten up your thinking. And so if you want to improve your thinking, the most concrete, tangible way to do that is easy to manage is having a regular writing practice of some type. And the goal isn't to become a better writer. The goal is to become a clearer thinker. And no matter what you are doing in life, you are going to have to, especially in a digital world where email is going to remain king for the foreseeable future. And if not email, it's going to be text. There will be a text component because people can answer it asynchronously. Then you need to be a compelling communicator. And there's a book called On Writing Well that I think is a very good investment for people. There is a book called Bird by Bird, which is hilarious and very, very good for dealing with some of the neuroses that writers have, particularly if you're interested in fiction, which is an area I want to get into. But and then I would suggest very closely related to that is getting good at negotiating. So communicating, negotiating, they're two.
So written and then verbal communication.
Written and verbal. There's a program called Secrets of Power Negotiating by, I think it's Roger Dawson. And the audio version is exceptional to listen to because you are able to pick up the nuance of the intonation and the delivery. And then you role play that. And I mean, really I'm blanking on my quotes here. Archilochus, I think must have been a Greek of some type, general perhaps. Let's just say it's a general. But his quote, and I'm paraphrasing this, was something along the lines of, we do not rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training. And you have to practice. Of course. You can't expect to read a book on negotiating, walk into a huge negotiation that you're nervous about, and knock it out of the park. No. You have to role play it. You have to practice. So I think with the one asset would be honing your clarity of thought by some type of regular writing practice.
Sure. I like that. As two guys sitting here, former bullied elementary school kids here, what do you think are some good ways to increase confidence for anyone, or what are some ways that you did to increase confidence along the way, and what are some things other people can do?
Increase confidence for people in general, or for kids, or
in general? Let's say adults, people listening, 18 and up.
I really think that positive thinking is overrated. So what I mean by that is, or let me phrase that a different way. I think positive thinking is necessary but not sufficient. So what I've noticed, and this is very common, for instance, in the meditation world, you'll see people. I've met some tremendous meditation teachers, and some of them defy this description, but they're outside of the action, right? So they're at a monastery, they're somewhere very with minimal inputs, and they're the picture of patience and calm and so on. But I've seen some of those people all day long. Exactly. When you throw them into the front, onto the front lines, and people are telling them to fuck off, and they're honking behind them, they lose their shit. And I think that you need to make yourself uncomfortable. So if you have and that's why in the 4-hour work week, these comfort challenges are so important. I mean, and they seem silly, but there's a very transcendent or important benefit that you get from, say, going into a Starbucks and laying down on the floor for 20 seconds and not saying anything to someone and then just getting back up. And that's a comfort challenge. Most people do not want to do it. And they'll do that and they'll get up and they'll be like, wow, I was so nervous about that and nothing bad happened.
Nothing happened.
Exactly. And when you expand your sphere of comfortable action by doing things that make you marginally uncomfortable, you get better at asking yourself and answering the question, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
And you realize, not much. Like, really, I've done all these other things I thought were going to be these horrible experiences, and I was totally fine.
Sure.
Great. So let me try A, B, or C that I am worried about.
Right.
Or was previously worried about. So I think that you have to inoculate yourself against fear by exposing yourself to fear. It's the only way. It's the only way you can do it.
Yeah, when I was, I think it was 15 or 16 in the summer, going to like junior year of high school, I was starting to like get into my body, and I was terrified of women still. Like, I could talk to them, but I couldn't go up to strangers, right?
I'm still terrified of women.
Right? And I remember being like, I'm sick and tired of not being able to talk to girls because this is pissing me off. When all these other guys are like able to talk and just go up and have fun, I couldn't do it. So I gave myself this challenge, and I wish I would have read the book. The book would have come out, 15 years ago. I could have done it. But I gave myself the challenge of every time I see a girl that makes my heart flutter, or that I'm like nervous by, I have to go up to her and ask her for a number and start a conversation with the intent of asking her for a number.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, man, at the end of the summer, I was really good. It was so terrifying the first week.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what's going to happen? They're going to reject me. They're going to laugh at me. They're going to talk about me. But it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Even when I did fail, I was like, oh, well, on to the next girl.
Right. Exactly.
Right? And I really believe in that.
It's a practice. You can't, I don't think you can, your subconscious is really on point and honest in a lot of ways, and you can't fool yourself into being confident just by repeatedly telling yourself to be confident.
Be positive. You got this.
You have to incrementally do things that make you routinely uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and
like that.
So it's like one that actually in the TV show, in the Tim Ferriss Experiment. So one of the episodes is on building a business, and and so Noah Kagan and I of AppSumo.
Love Noah.
Yeah, tutored this woman. I'm not going to spoil the all of the details, but who's building a business. And one of the things he had her do, like right on the spot, she had no prompting for it. He's like, all right, go inside and get a coffee and ask for 20% off.
Wow.
And see if you can get 20% off of your coffee. So
download the episode to see what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there's a lot more. Yeah, you want to talk about comfort challenges? There's a lot in that episode. But the just the act of doing these little things that make you uncomfortable, hugely valuable.
I like that. Very cool. All right, I want to get to a few last questions. One that you ask, I think sometimes I've heard you ask this at the end of your episodes, is I think you say the question like, I'm going to ask you something and then you just give me the first response. And one of them is punching someone in the face. I think that's a question you ask, right?
Yeah. Whose face comes to mind when you think of the word punchable? Yeah.
So who is that for you right now?
Oh man, and I realize why this is a tough one to answer because people don't. There's another expression: friends come and go, but enemies accumulate. And let me think about that. I'll give you a real answer. So I'll give a general answer, and but it's true. And this is I feel like I've aged 10 years just fighting this battle internally. Pretty much every kind of mid-level big company bureaucrat who's tried to veto creative decisions of mine makes me so furious. It's hard to even verbalize how angry that makes me.
Wow. Because
they've never had their own skin in the game. They've never had to stand on stage and risk getting booed. They've never had to put out something and risk not even getting booed, but just getting crickets. They've never had to like stare down the barrel of the gun and potentially bite that bullet. They've never had to do it. Yeah. And so for them to veto or interfere with any creative decision on my part just makes me fume. And I'm not saying it's helpful for me to fume, but that's my response. So definitely makes me want to punch.
Wow. Okay.
And kick and elbow and knee and stomp and the whole 9 yards. So far haven't acted it out.
Another question. If you were given, let's say $50 billion right now handed to you, and someone said the only thing you can do is use this to help the world, what would you do to help the world with that money? You couldn't use it for yourself, but you had to use it for
50 billion. First thing that comes to mind is focusing on the Global Literacy X Prize, or something very closely aligned with that. So determining how to create a software program that is open source, that can be put onto smartphones, any type of, say, Android device and beyond, that allows children in any country in the world to develop basic literacy and numeracy skills without a teacher. So software that they can pick up, figure out, that will take them through the teaching of these things in some type of compelling way that competes well against all the other things they can access. I think that would be the first place I would focus. But quite frankly, I would get a bunch of people in the room who are smarter than I am, who have had to make decisions like this. Maybe not with 50 billion, but with billions, certainly. Sure. And I would sit down and be like, okay, what are the biggest mistakes that people make when they're put into this situation? And but I think the building, I would basically take my goals that I have already with the books and 4-Hour Chef and with the Tim Ferriss Experiment, the TV show. All of these are aimed at providing people with a superior toolkit that makes them world-class innovators and problem solvers. And if you can take hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people who currently do not have the capability to be far-reaching problem solvers because they don't have basic literacy and numeracy, and you provide that to them, it also helps prevent, I think, a very large percentage of them from becoming problems. Right. And they become contributors instead of just pure consumers. So that would be where I would focus. At least offhand, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay. I consider you probably one of the most elite problem solvers out there. And
thank you.
Yeah. And besides the not having the solution of living forever, what's the one problem you have yet to solve that eats at you the most?
How to do side splits like Van Damme between two chairs.
That is pretty sweet. Although I don't think I could do that anymore.
It's been on my to-do list for 30 years, but I think I may just have to give up on that. There isn't really any pragmatic benefit to me doing that, but I've always fantasized about being able to do it. Okay. Blood sport style. But the other problem that I haven't been able to solve, well, I'm working on it, but quite frankly, and this is not something I expect people to sympathize much with, but I'm good at saying no. I have to get 100 times better. I mean, I say no to 99 out of 100 things that come my way. Yeah. But I have to get to the point where I'm saying no to 999 out of 1,000 things.
Yeah. I mean, I saw your email backlog. It's insane.
Just, even with all the filters, all the structures, the
assistants, the gatekeepers,
even with all of that, the volume is incredible. And I think that.
So how do you solve that?
I have to create systems, and I also have to, I think, ultimately upset a lot of people, and I'm not used to that. I'm accustomed to being able to sort of politely decline a lot of things, and some people will take it personally, but it's going to have to get to a point where nobody on my team even acknowledges receipt of 99% of what we get. Wow. And people will get very upset by that. Wow. And it's an interesting transition for me. I mean, there's a great book written by Derek Sivers. I think it's Anything You Want. I could be blanking on the title. It's very, very short. Derek Sivers is a fascinating guy who built up a company called CD Baby, sold it for, I think it was 24 or 27 million. Gave most of it to charity, as I understand, and just like a philosopher king of the first class, a really fascinating guy. And one of his chapters, which I think started as a blog post, but he talks about it. He talks about the few situations he's been in, and then saying no if it's not a hell yes. So if it's not a hell, like an enthusiastic hell yes, it's a no.
I like that.
There's nothing in between. It's not okay, ping me in 2 months. It's not maybe, why don't we talk about it next quarter? If it's not like, oh my God, I have to do this right now, it's a no.
It's a no.
And
that's interesting.
That you end up having to throw out a lot of very cool opportunities if you take that lens.
But it's not a hell yes.
Right. And particularly when, let's say I get a cool opportunity to come to me, or even an email introduction from somebody I know, but it's one of 999 other such introductions. If I even reply,
oh my gosh,
it'll turn into another 2 or 3 emails.
Yeah.
Very oftentimes.
Really?
Because people have been taught to be persistent. And I will tell you, with busy people, being overly persistent is not a good thing. You have to
have patience.
Hear the message.
Yes.
And in retail, it's location. With reaching out to busy people, it's timing. Like, wait until the timing is right. And how is the timing right? For instance, like if I want to reach out to a A-list celebrity to be on my podcast, I am going to try to figure out through back channels or their managers or whatever when they are going to be doing press junkets to promote something they're doing, because that is when they'll be scheduling all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I will not waste my breath and infuriate the team by trying to be insistent outside of those pockets of time.
Sure. That's smart.
Because they are just as busy, if not more busy than I am.
Yeah.
So that was a long answer, but
No, it's great,
saying no, I have to get much better at, and I think I'm going to have to publish pretty soon a couple of sort of public declarations of
like a manifesto,
email bankruptcy. I'm taking a startup vacation for the next 6 months. Like don't send me any email intros, et cetera, et cetera.
And if you emailed me in the last 6 months, I'm not getting back to you.
Sorry, I can't get back to you. Yeah,
amazing.
And it's going to piss off a lot of people, but I think at the end of the day, there is a point where you have to choose between your own sanity.
Mm-hmm. And pleasing everyone else.
Yeah. And even if you try to please everyone else, you can't. So it's really no choice at all.
So please yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Or just save yourself as a starting point.
I think was it Warren Buffett who said the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no almost 100% of the time.
Right. Yeah, he said that, and then also I think it was Steve Jobs who said, oh God, it was, and I'm misquoting, but it's something along the lines of, to do anything great, you have to say no to 1,000 things. Amazing. And
say yes to one thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically,
so that's something that I think I'm very good at. I'm better than I think the vast majority of people I've bumped into generally, and that's by training, not by any innate ability. It's just through training, but I have to get better.
Yeah. Okay. All right. A couple quick questions left. One is, if all of your books and all of your writings were deleted, everything you've ever put out there on a blog post, it's the last day of your life, 150 years from now, because you've extended it, everything's deleted, and you had 3 truths about life to write down and pass on to your family and to the world, what would those 3 truths?
Jesus, man.
Well, and you couldn't, all the information you've learned, all the stuff you've written, the millions of books you've sold, what are the 3 things that you would say are true about life as you know it?
Yeah. That is a very large question, Lewis.
I said it was a quick answer.
Yeah. Long pause followed by short answer.
It doesn't have to be perfect, but what comes up for you?
I'll give you 2. So the first 2 that come to mind are, you're the average of the 5 people you associate with most.
I like that.
Financially, physically, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone tells you you have to do something or should do something, ask them for the evidence. Ask them what evidence suggests that. And the underlying theme being test assumptions. You have to test assumptions. I have to do this or this. Really, like, what evidence do you have that suggests that I'm limited to those 2 options? And if they can't answer you, then you shouldn't take that advice.
Right.
There's a lot of speculation and just making up of the rules as we go along. And I think that people get trapped in prisons of their own making because they accept limitations that other people place on them or that they place on themselves just as often. So, if you or someone else says you have to do X or you should do Y, ask what evidence is there to support this.
Okay, those are great. Do you have one more that came off the top of your mind? One more truth?
Treat health as number 1, because without it, everything else will fall apart. And with it, everything else becomes easier.
I like that. Very cool. 3 books you'd leave behind. If you could only leave 3 besides your own, what would the 3 books that you would recommend if, you couldn't even have the 3 truths and no writings, but you're just like, here, family and friends, 3 books is all you get. What would that message be?
It's toughy. The first 3 that come to mind, I'm a book lover. There are many, many books that I love, but the first would be Letters from a Stoic by Seneca. The second would be Zorba the Greek, Zorba the Greek, which is a novel with a lot of similar messages, I feel. A close cousin to that would be Vagabonding, but so I'll give one.
Which you gave to me, I have over here somewhere up on the shelf.
Vagabonding. It's a great book. So Letters from Stoic by Lucius Seneca, which is 2,000 plus years old. Then Zorba the Greek, and then last, just one for, I suppose, business career purposes, the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing.
That's a good one. Yeah, very cool.
I think those will take people pretty far.
Very cool. I like it. Well, okay, let's wrap it up. Again, make sure to go to your site, but also to iTunes and get the show that's coming out.
Definitely. So the Tim Ferriss Experiment, you can search for it on iTunes, or it should be available if you go to itunes.com/Tim Ferriss also.
Very cool.
But when in doubt, you can just search the Tim Ferriss Experiment. It should pop up somewhere.
And it's on your blog as well.
Yeah.
And what is a question you want to ask for the listeners that they will answer on the comments of just about any question you may have for them?
Yeah, for sure. Well, sort of in the spirit of the show, trying to show people that they can do a lot more and much in very short periods of time than they ever thought possible. You know, if you could become world class at any skill in the next 6 months, what would that skill be? And particularly if it's something that you dreamed of and put up on a shelf and gave up on. Right. What is one skill you'd like to become world class at in the next 6 months, which means top 5% in the general population in the world?
Very cool.
So if it's tennis, you don't have to win Wimbledon. Right. It's not, don't measure yourself against professionals, but like top 5% in the general population. What is one skill in the next 6 months? Because I think that's plenty of time.
If you're looking for more greatness in your life, make sure to check out this video right here. And also check out our free PDF, The 3 Secrets to Unlock the Power of Your Mind to help you change your life. Download it right here.
For you young guys, the best teachers are not in colleges. The best teachers are on YouTube.